Good morning. Thanks for giving me a chance to talk in this session, and I want to thank Nathan in particular for the invitation and for setting this all up. My name is Matthew Rudd. I'm an associate professor of mathematics here at Sewanee, a liberal arts college in Tennessee. I'm also a Manning author. I'm writing the book Regression: A Friendly Guide. It's available now in MEEP. The first 5 chapters have been written, and it should be done, it better be done in 2022 at some point. I'm also a data scientist. I do some consulting with Databrew, a small data science consultancy, and Hyde, a growth stage startup that I'll talk more about in just a minute. And in my teaching, writing, and consulting work, I've noticed some common challenges and opportunities, and my hope is that responding to those is going to be an emerging trend in the coming months and years. And here's the situation. It's kind of like this scene in Men in Black when Agent J, played by Will Smith, partners up with Agent K, played by Tommy Lee Jones. And in this scenario, statistics is kind of the tired, old, and busted thing, and new technologies like deep learning, neural networks, new frameworks, new languages, they are the new hotness. And the main point I want to make today is that these need not be in opposition. In fact, we really need both of these things. They need to work together. Okay, so we need both. So some problems, some new problems, and some long-standing open problems really do demand new tools, new algorithms, and the algorithms we're developing are just amazing. They can do great things. So, from online chatbots to AI tools that can diagnose medical conditions better than humans can, they're remarkable. The flip side of that, though, is that some people, really want results they can understand that are interpretable, and some of the black box AI ML algorithms just aren't like that. And by paying too much attention to new technologies, you can forget about existing or older tools that work really well. So, for example, logistic regression is a great tool. It often outperforms machine learning algorithms on certain tasks, and in certain situations, when you want to be able to interpret things to people, logistic regression is far preferable. And so we need both of these things. They need to work together. All right, and to make this concrete, I'm going to talk about a certain case study of cough monitoring, and that's what Hyde does. So Hyde is a growth stage AI startup, and they're developing an app. They have an app, and they're continuing to develop an app that monitors cough. So, the situation used to be that if you went to see the doctor and talk about your cough, you might say you've been coughing a lot, and the doctor would say, how much? What's your cough like? And you would be at a loss because we don't have good words for that. And there haven't been tools before that could count coughs or monitor coughs effectively or unobtrusively. And so now we're getting those tools thanks to Hyde. So now you can get time series plots like this of how often you've coughed and when, and we get these rich audio signals that we can analyze. What we think is going to happen, what we hope is going to happen, is we're going to have AI tools, so AI-enabled smartphones, that can diagnose diseases based on the sound of a cough. In fact, what will probably be the case is we'll use the cough sounds and clinical information to get good, robust diagnoses out in the field. Now, as of right now, what we can do is we can monitor coughs, count them unobtrusively for people, and benefit them tremendously. So what we're doing here's an article from the Wall Street Journal from September, and as Peter Small, our chief medical officer, has said, pulmonologists are like cardiologists without a blood pressure cuff, but now we're giving them a tool they can use so they're just as well armed. Okay, talking about coughing or identifying coughs is actually a challenging problem. Okay, so if you pay attention to yourself and others around you, you'll see why. So sometimes people just sort of clear their throat like that, like that. Other times they have these explosive coughing fits, like you see here on the right. It's sort of exaggerated for dramatic effect, but a good app has to distinguish between those two different kinds of coughs. Is it really a cough? Is it some spurious sound or what? And as with every machine learning application or tool, the key is getting good training data and lots of it. And that's what Hyde has done brilliantly. So when the co-founders saw this opportunity, they built an app. They launched it in March 2020, and they've been collecting coughs ever since, and they have the biggest cough data set that anyone has. Over 100 million explosive sounds, over 1 million human-labeled files, 250,000 human-confirmed coughs, and then 800,000 or so human-confirmed non-coughs, with some excluded because of ambiguity. And thanks to all this training data and all this effort at labeling, the app now just works. So the end user has an app, they can monitor their coughs, it's great. And in this case, having a black box identify coughs is totally appropriate. The user doesn't need to know how the app determined it was a cough, just that a cough happened, and they can track them. In other contexts, that's a crucial issue that needs to be examined more. So, for example, in credit applications or determining parole for people who are in prison, those are notoriously fraught with bias, and in those situations, a black box is not okay. You want to know why a decision was made and what all went into that. Okay, but in any case, Hive now has this app, works great, tons of training data. Here are things that you can do right now with Hive. So the one current use case is just monitoring patients. So here's a person who was coughing a lot, and they were given gabapentin. Their cough was reduced significantly. People noticed, and then over time, the person did much better thanks to this intervention. Okay, so you can monitor that and actually see that the medication helped, made a difference. Okay, that's super important. Another use case is monitoring how a patient's behavior has changed or not. So, here's a person who coughed a lot. They were coughing a ton back in January, December, and then they stopped smoking. You can see from this monitoring that their coughs were reduced. And then when the cough started up again, that coincides with a relapse into smoking, and then the cessation of smoking caused another reduction in cough later on. So that's great. These are both great examples of how this app can be used to monitor and help people. But they're both retrospective. So we collected the data, and then looking back, you can see what happened. So here are some future use cases that where we need to combine these AI tools and some good, strong modeling. So what we'd really like to do is notify users in real time that their cough has changed. You're coughing more, you're coughing less. Now, how do you do that? To do that, you need a good, robust statistical model of coughing. And the natural thing to try is just to take the average number of coughs per hour. Use that, generate some count model. And sort of the standard count model you would try first is a Poisson model. And without getting too much into the weeds, a Poisson model is going to give you the probability of a certain number of coughs per hour. And all you need to do to build this model is have the average number, the average rate. Okay, but if you try that for this particular patient, you can see that the result is terrible. So the time series on the top, these are actual recorded coughs per hour for about 10 months of data. If you take the average coughs per hour as that one parameter, if you build a Poisson model and try to simulate coughs, it's awful. So the person actually coughed more than 20 times quite frequently. With this simulation, you never get more than 10 coughs per hour. Okay, so the natural thing to try here just doesn't work. You need more information than just the average number of coughs. It's totally a statistical problem. What seems promising is if we try a different model, namely a negative binomial model, it seems to work pretty well. In this case, you need both the average and the variance of the coughs per hour. And you can see even from this that it's not perfect, but this is a much better simulation. So same recorded coughs per hour on top. Here's a simulation using the negative binomial on the bottom, and there we get some hours with 40 or more coughs, plenty of hours with 20 or more coughs. The fit is much better. Again, not perfect, but it's promising. And that's, again, a combination of this sophisticated AI tool for identifying coughs with some traditional old school modeling, knowing about probability distributions. Okay, so there's one future application that we're working on. Here's another. So if we're going to identify diseases based on cough sounds, it'd be great if you could just use cough sounds, but what's probably more likely and more powerful is to combine the audio signals, these information-dense audio signals, with some clinical style patient data or user data, like we have here on the right. So you might have a table, a spreadsheet of things like age, smoking status, comorbidities, things like that, and you want to integrate that with the output from a deep learning model. And that's sort of a cutting-edge frontier problem. How do you combine neural network output with tabular data so that you don't lose anything and you get the most out of all that data? And so we're working on that. And these two examples, combining neural network results with tabular data and incorporating some statistical modeling, these are both part of this first question here. So one of the challenges, one of the opportunities is, how can we combine cutting-edge AI and old-fashioned modeling to get the best of both? All right. And a related question, an affiliated question is, how can we build models that are interpretable, that people can explain and understand, not just black box methods that are opaque and hard to understand? So these are important questions. I look forward to working on both of them. And if you have questions about them or want to work together on them, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for your attention.